Good evening and welcome. My name is Tina Menendez, and I am the Director of Education at HistoryMiami Museum. I would like to thank everyone for joining us tonight for our conversation of what is Miami to you. If you need any assistance during the program, please feel free to chat with us directly. If you have any questions for our speakers this evening, please submit your questions in the Q&A box. Tonight, I have the wonderful pleasure of introducing our moderator, who I am very thankful and fortunate to know, the amazing Rosie Gordon-Wallace. Ms. Gordon-Wallace, the founder, curator, and director of Diaspora Vibe Gallery and Diaspora Vibe Cultural Arts Incubator. Since 1996, Ms. Gordon-Wallace has initiated and produced transnational creative programs that redefine concepts of diaspora, including the International Cultural Exchange Program, the Caribbean Crossroads Series, the Artist in Residence Program, an ongoing contemporary exhibitions program, and numerous community-based outreach projects. One might never have guessed that this licensed medical microbiologist and former senior consultant for Searle Pharmaceuticals from 1981 to 1999 is now the founder and senior curator of Diaspora Vibe, one of the most talked about Caribbean art incubators in Miami and on the East Coast. Ms. Gordon-Wallace, always a passionate lover of art, made up her mind in 1999 to devote herself full-time to the gallery she created and developed. Please help me welcome Ms. Rosie Gordon-Wallace.
Good afternoon, everyone. Look at them. And after that lovely, flattering introduction, we can now say good night and go home.
Beautiful.
Good evening. It is my joy. My name is Rosie Gordon-Wallace, and it is my joy and pleasure to have this conversation this evening with these three young artists with whom I work and with whom the HistoryMiami trusted us to create the mural. When we were invited to curate this large mural with HistoryMiami in its South Building lobby during the beautiful Miami spring weather and with summer lurking left of stage, Diaspora Vibe Cultural Arts Incubator had a wonderful joy of saying, who am I going to ask? When your curator, Senior Curator, Director of Curatorial Affairs, Michael Knoll, called me, I said, who will I ask? Who will come? And I reached out in a really particular way to Izia Saint-Val, Izia Lindsay, and Rosa Naday Garmendia. I will share a little bit about three of them in a short bio reading, and you will have links to their websites in the chat. I want to start with Rosa. Rosa is from Cuba, La Habana, Cuba, and lives and works in Miami. She's a socially engaged, multidisciplinary artist who produces work at the nexus of contemporary art and activism. You know, Rosa, I know this by heart, right? I could just read, but I'm going to read it so I can tell everybody everything. Her work is rooted in social issues, particularly the intersectionality of her identity as a woman, immigrant, and industrial worker. The driving impulse of her desire to use art as a tool for self-reflection, create discourse, challenge international views, and build understanding among people. She reflects on and analyzes norms and values in contemporary society. She focuses on projects that critically view the role of the police, and I said the police, not just police, acts of racism, poverty, and military interventions abroad. Her artistic practice is a daily act of resistance. Rosa Naday Garmendia. Izia Lindsay is a mixed artist who explores both digital and traditional media. Izia is from Trinidad and Tobago, and I noticed I did not leave off Tobago.
Tobago.
His artwork addresses symbolism in Caribbean iconography that is rooted in tradition, but interpreted with contemporary ideas. Izia uses bold geometric shapes that juxtapose and intersperse to form his multi-layered artistic pieces. The thematic role is a cultural narrative reproducing the dualities of his turbulent, cosmopolitan Caribbean life. We all can agree with that. His research examines material culture, indigenous societies, an ever-changing landscape of the Caribbean, while his subject matter tackles issues of identity and class in a post-colonial society. Lindsay is currently a lecturer in Miami at the University of Miami. And then Asir Saint-Val, affectionately Asir, originated from Haiti and moved to South Florida, where he earned his BFA in painting and graphic design from the New World School of the Arts. His art has been exhibited in Florida and New York and throughout the Caribbean, and is represented in numerous private collections. Saint-Val is a painter and a salsa dancer, I inserted that, a sculptor and installation artist. His quasi-figurative images by turns are humorous, grotesque, and they bring together ideas, people, and incidents of central and modern debates about the definition of the valence of neuromelanin, rendered in a blend of traditional art mediums and a wide range of unconventional organic materials, coffee, cocoa, ginger, chocolate, tea among them. His pictures, objects, and environments are a surreal fantasia of such loosely linked themes as under-recognized African-American inventors, the politics of sexual desire, and the complex aesthetics, narratives, and metaphors that attach to the organic compound neuromelanin. I don't know where else in the world we could find 3 brilliant artists to do one mural. History Miami chose you well. I want to start the conversation today about this mural that presented itself, this idea. What makes Miami, Miami? And when we all met to do this project, we spoke about what that meant in practical terms. But before we actually talk about the mural, I want you to tell me a little bit about your individual relationships to Miami, as it relates, of course, to the mural in the back of your mind, right? So let's start with Rosa.
So I was very excited about the prospect of visually talking about Miami. I grew up in Miami and in the Cuban community, and Miami is so many different things to so many different people. I mean, I remember thinking, you know, for me, the weather, the tropics, the closeness to the Caribbean, and the biggest challenge is how to address all the layers and all the different people who live here. So I was pleased with the challenge.
Where are you located now, Rosa? We didn't do our land acknowledgements as we normally do. And I am sort of doing a nod to HistoryMiami Museum and didn't really want to take up additional time. But if you tell me where you're located, it actually goes to acknowledging where we are presently.
Well, you know, I'm in Little Haiti, but this right north of me is a burial ground of the Tequesta, right up 10, 12 blocks north of where I'm at right now, but I'm in Little Haiti. So, you know, all of those who came before us, and Miami is certainly a place of immigrants and people from other places.
Right. So Asir, the same question to you. What's your relationship to Miami as you think about how we ideated around this mural?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you. When you invited me to do this project, I was thrilled because I felt like I was going back home. Because the museum, that space, that particular space, I worked as a teaching artist when it was the Prairies Up Museum. So walking the lobby, it was really full circle in a very special way, because I felt like I was a student and now I'm doing a mural. It had always been a dream to have my work in the museum. So it's there in a very special way. And I've seen several artists that create murals on the wall for exhibitions. So in that sense, in terms of the space, it was great. It was good to be there and create there. Miami for me, right now I live in Attapata, and I've lived all around Miami, just moving for school, going to New York School of the Art. Attapata is a little bit west of Wynwood.
Mhm.
Yeah, west of Wynwood, also Little Haiti too, west of Little Haiti, northwest. But I've lived in Little Haiti as well. Miami for me, I feel like Miami has a painful resonance for me. It has for me, I guess because I was raised here as a teenager,
Mhm.
and going to school. And I think the Haitian experience was not as cool. And I think now it's better. So it's interesting. It echoes a lot of kind of like painful memories for me. So I think to approach the mural, I think I went in a different way. I don't like to tap into these histories. So they're best left alone.
Well, we wouldn't have enough time because
Exactly.
we would have to talk about your dancing and who you're dancing with and all of that. So
Right.
I thank you for sparing us. Those really interesting conversations. But this question I'm going to ask also to Izia, who is of all four of us, the newest immigrant. And Izia, when I called you and said, I would like you to come and dream with us about this mural, this idea, what makes Miami, Miami. What's your relationship to Miami?
So first, I'd like to thank Rosie, Roy, the team at HistoryMiami for having such a seamless mural experience, you know. And I'll also like to thank my team, Rosa and Asir as well, for the support that all of us brought together to make it happen. I came to Miami in 2015 on a scholarship to go to school, and I instantly fell in love with it. At that time I came there, Miami Carnival was happening, which is really close to Trinidad. So I went
October,
there.
right?
Exactly,
October,
and it's coming back again in October here. So right now there are a lot of Caribbean people are here traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Once they're vaccinated, they're here in the US. And they're having a time. The COVID situation in the Caribbean it's a bit tragic right now. But right now, a lot of Caribbean people are here. But it's so funny in Miami. I leave Trinidad and come to Miami and see the same people, the same community, the same culture, the same color, the same vibe presented in Miami. And you can't like pinpoint one person and say this person is from Miami. You just never know. So just that relationship of coming here to study really did make it feel like home. And the weather was a plus as well of choosing Miami to come here. So in the mural, I think, especially in my practice as well, color is really important, and how we interpret that when you see it, it's impactful. And hopefully you see a part of yourself in that mural, with all this kaleidoscope of colors. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for calling out Roy's name, Roy Wallace's name, because I'm going to highlight him later as we show the work. You all four of us know that in doing this, it was a real team. But remember when we met, we were doing intersectionality diaspora art from the Creole City. We were in the design district. We met in the kitchen with the blackboard. And I said, I asked you to close your eyes. Remember, I said, close your eyes so that you can show me what it is that you think we're going to be able to do. And so as I'm going to ask you with this, to start taking us down the journey. This is if everyone can see the screen, this is what the wall looked like before, when we were invited by the curatorial team of Michael, Noel, Christopher Barfield, Anita Francois, and of course the hierarchy at HistoryMiami Museum that had to approve it. When the chief curator invited us, this is what we saw, a plain wall. take us through the journey, and we can stop and talk about the different ways in which we attacked this project of what makes Miami, Miami.
So as Rosie said, we all met in the kitchen during intersectionality. You know, we had a really nice whiteboard, and we were just chatting. You know, it wasn't for that main purpose, but it was more of a community of us just being supportive of each other. Yeah. And then we just started brainstorming. You know, this was the initial stage of the mural is dreaming. You know, what can we put without any limitations? So on the left-hand side, these are some words that came up of what we think Miami is. And then afterwards, we would start thinking of how it would be represented as an icon or a symbol. And the thing with icons and symbols, everyone has their own interpretation of how they see stuff. So from there, right in that area, Asir started sketching. You know, he was working on pen and with his charcoals, and Rosa was taking notes, and then I was on my iPad, and we were just brainstorming colors. And it really, we had such a successful meeting that first day that afterwards, the follow-up meetings, we were just kind of tweaking to see how we can strategically plan executing this wall, you know, because on paper it's 8 by 11, but the wall is, you know, it's in feet now.
Yes.
You know, so just those realistic challenges started to come in play, but the initial stages of it, of the sketching and brainstorming, really helped solidify a more idea of the wall. Yeah.
Show us a few of these images, and I'm paying attention to the time. We're now at 6:17, so we have to be mindful so that we can be respectful of our audience. And of course, folks, while we're doing these drawings on the whiteboard, we're talking about what Miami is to us. I mean, Rosa is talking about Cafecita. I am talking about Miss Pearl and in Wynwood. We're all conjuring all the memories. So these images, one of the things that we couldn't see a while ago, we couldn't see the list of the names, or I couldn't see it on my side of the computer. They were cut off. So unless we can see them, we'll have to tell our audience some of the things that we went through. Or so if you can list them for us.
Oh, there it is. We could see.
Yeah, but it's not legible. So just go through with a few of them, please, Izia.
So we spoke about palm trees.
Oh, there it is. We could read it now.
We can read it now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So mask wearing, the orange bowl, the dolphins, Art Deco, everyday ordinary people. We wanted to make sure that this mural was one that someone who didn't have an art background could come and read it and enjoy it and find themselves in it, right? We talked about transportation. We talked about those of us that use cars, those of us that walk. We talked about the bicycle. Rosa, I remember brought up the old Cuban cars and how we, you know, our memory of them in Havana. Tent City, we talked about the homeless. We spoke particularly a long time about where the museum is located and what our experience is to it. I used to come to the library. I used to come to Miami Art Museum to see Asir and to work with Chippy and to work with Susan Delahunty at the time that the museum was there. So all of us had these memories. The landscape, remember we talked about the flamingo, we talked about the rhythm. We wanted you to literally smell the mural, folks. When we were doing it, we kept saying, we want these images to actually be ones that you could smell. So take us through, Izia and Rosa and Asir, jump in. These are all Asir's drawings.
While I was brainstorming through drawing, Rosie was brainstorming through text. Rosa was brainstorming through text as well. On the Words is amazing illustrator too. I think she was writing a lot of text. And these are some ideas of headdress. They just came up in my head in terms of like what I thought, and I directly start thinking about the indigenous people that were here before in the land. I felt like I didn't want to go anywhere else in terms of what I wanted to portray and depict, or what Miami meant to me. I guess it's because of what I'm interested in, my interest in spirituality. I automatically wanted to honor and celebrate the like Miccosukee tribes that were here, the original people of the land. So that was my focus. And then we started brainstorming how do we do it aesthetically? We don't want to put feathers in the mural. How do we portray that aesthetically? And this is where all our brain came about. And I did also more research on some of the names that were used, such as that crane or that bird that looks like a swan. Actually, a twa-twa. Yeah, what the Indians would call the people of the land.
Yeah.
It's a way of like referring to the people of the land based on the icons or animals of the land. Yeah. So if there's a lot of cranes in the land, so they would call them, these are the crane people. So Miamian were also referred to as twa-twa.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very simply, or what they call the Tweetwee people, which also reference to Miamians. Or it's spelled Miami or Miami ski, which is plural from Miami.
Yeah. As I take us through a little bit quicker, as we go, so we can get to some of Rosa's input and the circles. Go ahead.
So after that initial brainstorm, we started mapping it on the wall itself. Yeah, you have to look at it. If you try to tackle a wall in its entirety, it can seem overwhelming. So what you try to do is take it like pieces of a puzzle. And if you tackle each part individually, it more becomes like paint by number. There are two ways in which you can do a mural. You can either by the grid method, where you put entire numbers 1 to 10 on the two sides of the wall and then map it out. And then you would trace it onto it. You can also do projection mapping. And then the third way, if you're really, really talented, you can just go in and draw it. But that third one, most times the scale is off. And depending on how big the wall is, you would have to do one of the other two. So our challenge here was trying to figure out what's the best way that we can get the proportions and scales correctly. So each one of these pieces, and these lines actually connect as well. Rosa had a sketch before where we tried to make the crossroads of Miami to connect to each part, where you see the lines, where the yellow meets the green, and then the green meets the pink, and then so on. And then afterwards, we start coloring inside those spaces what symbols can merge and break away from the limitations of that space.
I want to just underscore to our guests that all three artists have had previous experiences with murals. We didn't just pick them because they're handsome and beautiful. We selected them because of their experience. Asir has done work in Cuba. Rosa has done work in Cuba and Suriname and in Miami. And Izia has done work in Miami and has a lot of murals in Trinidad and Tobago. And actually his name in Trinidad and Tobago resonates as a graffiti artist and muralist. So your masters from University of Miami didn't count at all with this. The other thing I want to underscore is that we are accustomed to working as a team. And so when we started to have the conversation, we kept saying, but we don't have a name. You know, we are artists that work with Diaspora Cultural Arts Incubator, and we are a part of this emerging Global South conversation. But in order to do this bombastic mural for HistoryMiami Museum, we wanted a name. So remember, we started all kinds of stuff. Remember, Rosa, we had all kinds of names. But we ended up, someone say what we ended up with. What is our name? What's the name of the collective?
Wall'N.
Wall'N.
We should shout it. Yeah.
We should shout it, Wall'N. because we did that because it sounded like balling, like, you know, I think soccer was going on at the time as well. And we thought we were like soccer players. So this collective has a name, and we will continue to use it as we are invited by other cities to do murals. We're working with Sophie in Bonet, in Hallandale as well. So we need to go a little faster through these images, but talk about the process here for me.
So from here now, this is where, that's the finished one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could talk
So this
about
is where, yeah, this is where the mapping starts.
Yeah.
So we sketched it out. And despite just having the guidelines, because all of us came from an artistic background and we can all draw, it's easier to fill in those lines with chalk that we had there.
Right.
And then afterwards, pulling those lines, because the thing with as a muralist, you're no longer drawing with the limitations of your wrist. You're now drawing with your body. So just being able to pull those lines confidently on the mural, you really do need a good team. As Rosie mentioned before, Rosa and Asir were really, really good teammates. For all three of us, we complemented each other really nicely to make it happen. I've never painted a mural by myself at all. I always have to bring in someone, and I'm pretty sure their experience is the same.
Yeah.
But when you're undergoing such a task, even if someone doesn't know how to paint a mural, they're still going to come help you, you know?
Yeah.
So they could come, especially in public spaces. One of my ideas when I was in Trinidad was bringing art to public spaces. And that's what, instead of going to the gallery, I wanted the art to be in your face. And the thing with murals and even street art and graffiti, even back in the 60s, it was meant to be seen, you know, from a distance. It's supposed to be impactful instantly. And that's what the mural aims to do, especially with color and the symbols. And even if you look at the hands, let me get a completed one. Yeah. Yeah, and even if you look at the hands as well, you can you feel like you can sit in them, you know, that when you stand next to it, you're like so tiny that we want you to be lost inside of the mural. Yeah.
Rosa, you want to say how it is that you attacked, because everybody went back to their different spaces and we would come back together again and have ideas. Some of the images that you thought were important to be placed.
I think that when we're looking at the feathers that Asir drew, we went back and looked at some of the patchwork and the garment and clothing of the Takesta, the Seminole. And I think you can see some of that inspiration. For me, language is very important. And, you know, through language, we connect. And I think that was one of the themes too of the mural, is how do we connect this broad layer of people from all over the world that really converge in Miami. So text is a big part of my personal work. I like, even though there's the subconscious sometimes or intuition, I really like using text. And so we talked about how we could include the different languages that are spoken here and things that people can relate to in Miami, like 305, you know, it's like bonjour, sac passe, or cafecito. So language is really important to me. And I was glad to see that we're able to incorporate a little bit of language and text in the mural.
I just want to add about.
Go ahead, Asir, go ahead.
I want to add on the language.
Yeah.
There's the two side wall. Rosie, you talk about like Roy and Roy contribution to the wall. I want to talk about that in connection with the language.
Right.
The Miami.
I don't know if we can bring him on now because
there
he is. There he is.
So,
but he's actually live on our he's a participant in the group. Can I pin him? I don't know if we can. Probably not. Roy, can you wave? I don't know if you can. But because we didn't practice it. But this is Roy Wallace and the two side walls that framed this important mural. I must say, because I'm biased, would not have looked as complete without the walls. And these two side walls are huge. Go ahead, Asir.
Yeah. So based on the language, so my research with the Miami and indigenous who lived there spoke a language called was Algonquin. Algonquin. This is the language for the Miami key, or they spoke. So then on the side wall you have like two opposite A's that are upside down with which spell Algonguin. Algonquin. So I had the privilege to conceptualize the two side walls. So we have like those two upside down A's. The whole thing was not to make it so obvious and so make it very tasteful and conceptual. Also, if you look on that side on the left where the texts are, you have like all these letter shapes.
Yeah.
Also take this letter A and so on. And then the bird, which is the quack.
So we wanted to bring the unconscious into the consciousness and the consciousness into the unconsciousness. We wanted folks, and we saw it at the opening. Remember, we saw people, especially children, going up to the mural and pointing to things that they recognize. We were also, remember, we talked about where is it that we're going to do the selfie? Because, you know, we live in a social media mecca, right? And we wanted an area, a focused area. Remember now that the curatorial team of Michael and Chris and Anita, and that we would go back and forth. I would go back and forth to them with what it is that what concept we came in. I am telling you, this curatorial team sanctioned and gave us a green light to do this mural. We could not have done it in a month. Remember, we had 1 month to finish this mural, and we were working only at night. And so we have to thank our installers. Please remind me of his name. It just slipped me, Asir, our fabricator, and the staff that facilitated us at night. Okay, it will come back. I thought I'd written it down, but I didn't.
Oh, I have it on my video.
Yeah. The guards at the gate when we would come into the museum is a sacred place, and so when you come in, when the hours are not there, you need permission to come through. Everybody was a team member in this project with us. This is the area, Asir, take it away to show our Isaiah, to show where the selfie area was.
It warms my heart every time I see a post on HistoryMiami Instagram. I send it to Rosie and to the group chat all the time. Because it also shows a connection, of it's not like they're posing to be there, just like you can actually see smiles, and especially when children go, there's a level of innocence of them wanting to be engulfed in this colorful world. Yeah.
There's an element too that we haven't talked too much about, food and sounds. Miami, one of the most beautiful things about Miami for me is that you can drive 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 miles, and you can go have a pupusa from Central American, or you can have pan de bono from Colombia, have a little didi cole from Haiti. So you can, you don't have to leave Miami to try and be exposed to other cultures and other peoples. And I think, so we have a little bit of that food, also sort of representing culture.
I'm thanking you for saying it, because I'm sneaking now to look in the chat to make sure that we are incorporating some of the questions. And someone is saying, as an artist, is there something that we would have liked to have put in the mural that we didn't get to put? And that person is Jason Perez. Jason, what you trying to do? They can't fire us again because we've already finished the mural. But we will tell you, we had many conversations, and folks support me with this. We were very conscious that we wanted to everyday ordinary folks to find themselves in the mural, full stop. And then we also were aware that we didn't want to use any overarching symbols that would have caused a trigger of trauma to anyone. We wanted to make sure that that didn't happen. We are also very aware that the histories of Miami have excluded many of us. And so we talked about that and how it is that we can subtly push the stuff in, the music, the love, and the joy. Remember that we're in a time of pandemic and we wanted people to come away with it. So I don't think we're going to tell you all the secrets about the hand.
I think that's the best one to mention, Rosie.
I've told them more than enough already
that's more
today.
than enough. But Jason, we had some conversations with the curatorial team around what this hand represented and why it is that we wanted it in multicolors. We want everybody to find themselves in that hand. Does anyone else want to make a politically correct answer to that question?
Well, after all, Jason, it is a work of art and it's meant for analysis.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for keeping me safe. Yes.
That was Marcos Lafitte. He was the person every day that got us into space.
Thank you. Thank you for remembering.
Marcos Lafitte was amazing. If you needed to call him, he'll be the only one at the space waiting for us, close for us, let us in night and day.
And you know what I appreciated too? That the HistoryMiami staff, museum staff, made themselves available to us. You know, it is a museum, and when you're in a sacred place, you have to treat the place with a certain amount of dignity. And sometimes I think we forget that. And in particular, this is our only HistoryMiami museum. So that this museum holds the stories, the pain, the trauma, the joys, the love, the sex, everything. This museum holds all of that. And I think we could feel it every time we went to do work. How does collaboration expand the creative process? What a beautiful question. And the person didn't put their name, I guess because I shouted out Jason's name. Folks, that's a great question. Rosa.
Talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
You know, when you approached me, Rosie, and you said we were going to work, you know, Aser and Isaiah, I was really pleased and happy because, you know, we've traveled together with Diaspora Vibe. We've woken up in the same house, we've shared food together, we've learned from each other. I have a lot of affection for both Aser and Isaiah and a lot of respect. But when you work together and you have to come to a consensus not every artist can work in a team or in a collaborative because it's very much about themselves and their goals. So not everyone can do that. So it's it's a process in building community, I think. So, and it's really a good experience. I had a really good experience. I'm just happy to do it. It's just another way of working.
Basically, you're saying to HistoryMiami Museum that we would like to do this again. We'd like to do this again with another theme. Anyone else want to tackle that really important question around collaboration?
I love collaborating with artists. I've done several installations and they cannot be done alone. It's tough. I'm not saying we had difficulties, but I'm saying collaborating with artists is difficult because you're dealing with different energies, which is what's gonna make it great. Right. It's the fire you're gonna go through together. That's gonna make it great. So it really enhanced the quality and the essence of work, of the final piece, because you have all these different energies that's vibrating to create a result. And even though it's difficult, it's gonna be amazing. Yeah. So I truly value collaborative work.
I think that question deserves an answer from all three of us, or three of you.
What the thing with working with people, my favorite color is in your favorite color. And then some people see things so totally different. You'd be surprised how everyone interprets it. And I think even with art today as well, you know, and how we look at things, people see things from a whole different lens. And it's nice when you interact with them and you're like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. And just having that connection and understanding that we can come to a vision that where we can understand each other. Yeah. And I think Izia, Rosa, myself, you know, all of us came with our practice, our strengths, our brains, and we really weighed on each other's strengths to make something that we were all proud of.
Yeah. Another, I mean, I don't know, this must be the brightest audience we've ever had, because these questions are really interesting, and we'll take a little bit more time to show you the completed mural. This question says, an anonymous attendee says, in Miami, there are so many people that live in various intersections, and your mural speaks to many lived experiences and identities. If you were to add to this mural or extend it, what would you add? We can't take all evening to answer now, folks. We did everything. We added everything. There was nothing else for us to add.
At
What
this
would
point,
we
the
add?
murals, it's perfect.
It's perfect. You know, let's stop and think about the domesticity of women and how it is that we wake up every day as women and we are in charge of our men are there, but we know that if that baby cries, it's our responsibility most of the time. Don't send me no bad text. And so we didn't have a breastfeeding mother. To the anonymous attendee, I don't know if the museum would have approved it, but I am saying that because life begins there, I see it sometimes people at the bus stop, you see it in stores. It's one of the things that you see in life and community. The other thing is, I'm going to be bold and say, we did with color, we did not leave out our LGBTQ community. And in terms of the extension of the family, maybe we could, if we were adding now, I'm answering the question, maybe we could add a different definition of what family looks like, right? Not the traditional ways in which family is defined, so that there would have been an extra nod to the extension of what family is. That's my input. Yeah. Do you feel art should be conceived and connected to the feelings of people that view it? Do you feel art should be conceived and connected to the feelings of people that view it? That's another tough question. Who's going to take that?
Can it be conceived to the people that are looking at it and their feeling? The answer, and my short answer is no. Because it's just me. I think it's no, because everyone is so different. Like Izia said, that your color is not my color. And when it comes to color, the symbology of color have different meanings for another. Because red could make one person cry, and red could make another person really joyful and connect with something very positive. So I think I would say no, my perspective.
Rosa?
It's very challenging because public art is supposed to respond to community, but many times the way that public art and artists are selected, the community is not asked what they want to see or what they want to have in their neighborhood. So, I think that's why there's also like, sometimes as an artist, you want to express or call attention to something in particular, and it might resonate with some people and it doesn't resonate with others. So you can't always, but I think for me as an artist, I would want, you can't please everybody and you can't speak about everything. It's impossible.
Yeah.
But you do want people to have a reaction. And I think of the viewers when I'm working, not because it's going to predetermine what I do, but because at the end of the day, it's the viewer, the audience who is going to interact with a work of art. But it's very challenging because I don't think it really, public art doesn't really respond to communities at this point in time, I don't think. And I'm not talking about this pub, because it's actually inside a place. It's
Right.
in a museum that you have to pay to get into.
I think that I missed my cue. I think some of these questions we wanted to discuss them live. So
Right.
we're going with the question. We're going with the question. Asir, Isa, you want to show some more images? We're at 6:45 and this is going well. There's a Saint-Val painting. This is at the early stages of the mural. The side walls done by Roy Anthony Wallace, a photographer and supporter of work. There he is painting the side walls.
This is the north side.
The north side, yes.
I think
I-
actually, I'm sorry, Rosie.
Go ahead.
To go back
Rosa.
to the question about responding to community, I think this came about, the hashtag #MyMiami was actually us thinking about how can we appeal to different layers of Miami society, to different experiences. So actually, I think that is a response to thinking about the viewers, the multi communities that live and coexist in Miami.
Right. Remember, we have a title for the mural. The mural is called "This is My Miami," and so the images of this particular mural in this particular time at this particular space is speaking of a view from 3 independent artists who worked collectively to show the mural. So I think just from the feedback that we have gotten a really positive feedback. We had a wonderful reception. Remember, we had a wonderful reception the day we opened the mural. That was attended by many folks. People came from Palm Beach and Fort Lauderdale. And we had wonderful cuisine, and we also had that steel band playing music from, right, playing music from the Caribbean. So anything else that you want to share? Go ahead.
Yeah, so this was.
This is an image of the reception with our director of the museum there as well. Folks from the PR. We had that interview with Miami Times, that young lady from Miami Times that did the interview with us that evening as well. This is Miami. Mural at HistoryMiami Museum showcases the diversity of the Caribbean, which is probably almost everybody that lives in Miami, because our definition of the Caribbean goes all the way around to Suriname. So Central America, Latin America, all of that. The Caribbean Sea doesn't have to touch you for you to be a part of the Caribbean. We have included you in this mural so that you can feel the joy. We talked about joy because this was in a time of the pandemic when people continued to die and we're sad. Well, we talked about the fact that we wanted this mural, This Is My Miami, to, when people walked into HistoryMiami Museum, that they would have a smile on their face, or it would encourage them, it would trigger them to smile. Let's talk a little bit about what can art do in terms of our chronobiology, in terms of our psychic. How can art trigger us from one mood to the next?
I think this mural here, it hits the nail on the head in terms of changing your emotion. I think when we went into it, we wanted it to seem welcoming and for you to be part of it. That was the goal of it.
Right.
Color plays, and even choosing the color, the fact that the green goes next to the pink and the yellow, those colors were chosen intentionally to give that effect.
Right.
Because I the group could have easily chosen a dull color palette, and it could have changed the entire mood of it. You know, we could have just put just silhouettes in black alone, you know, and then it would have read differently. But the fact that each part of the mural has some really strong, vibrant colors makes you want to look at it. And a lot of times these things, it affects your energy and mood when you walk into it. The nice thing about History Miami, when you walk into it, that's the first thing you see. You actually see it even before you open the doors.
Absolutely.
So especially as a first-time visitor, you get a little excited, you know, you stop and you want to see more, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, this conversation that the education department, that Tina Menendez and her team of Michelle and Kim and Swamis have put together, this is a chance to celebrate the three of you, but it's also a chance for us to say that this was a deliberate and purposeful action that the hierarchy at HistoryMiami Museum wanted to. This is a gift, folks. This is a gift to you in this community. And if you're on the Zoom tonight and you have not seen the mural in person, I would encourage you to take a trip so you can see the sidewalls and the actual mural that has changed the entire lobby area of HistoryMiami Museum. I remember asking the staff, the first impression guests, the people who welcome you into the museum, how they felt every day coming in as they watched us doing this piece. And one young lady said to me, "It makes me feel joyful." I mean, that to me was our reward. The evening of the event, people were smiling. I mean, there was, even in the time of a pandemic when we were all masked and some of us were sad because we have individual stories. Rosa was sad. I had sadness. Many of us were sad inside. But that evening, we felt joyful and in the moment. And for that memory, I think that I am so grateful. I can't thank you, Rosa Naday Garmendia, with whom I've worked for years and years. Asir Saint-Val, who started with me from almost the very beginning. And Izia Lindsay, who has been invaluable in letting us look sophisticated in the language of images. This is an absolute joy to be able to put my name and Roy Wallace's name to this mural. I'm sorry we weren't able to bring Roy on. The technology doesn't allow us to do it. But thank you for trusting me with the idea, and thank you for turning up. And we got this in on budget and on time. So this is awesome. And we want to thank all of the administrators, the curatorial team, and the education department for inviting us to come and have this conversation. It didn't even feel like work, and it's work. It is such a joy to be in this esteemed company. And I look forward to the rest of the year continuing to work with you all.
Thank you.
Tina, do I turn it over to you? Are we going to do the questions now? And we're going to answer these live. As artists, can you describe Miami in one word?
Loud.
Okay. Asir?
Indigenous.
Indigenous.
I would say festive.
And I would say complicated. Miami is one word, complicated. The color selection is vibrant. It looks bright and fresh. How did you end up with the particular color palette? Who wants to take?
They had a Trinidadian on the team.
Yeah.
Folks, I
You know
don't
what?
think you heard him. I don't think you heard him. I am not even going to repeat it because I am from Jamaica, okay?
We had,
This
we
is
had
going
all
to be a
Caribbean
nation
staff,
fight.
all Caribbean
Yeah.
staff,
He said because you have a Trinidadian on the team.
and a Haitian.
You know, we're not even going to give you that as a
You know, we talked about the brightness in South Florida and the tropics, the brightness and that, you know, you may have a problem, but when it's sunny outside
Yeah.
and the sun is shining and, you know, it lifts your spirit. And I think, you know, so when you're from the Caribbean, you sort of like, this is part of your DNA, the brightness, the colors. So
And,
yeah.
and Carnival plays a lot into my my color palette as well.
Yeah.
A lot of my previous murals, they're really, really colorful as well. So,
You have a mural that people can see at Sunset.
yeah, it's still up at
Mall.
Sunset Mall. Mhm.
When you were young and crazy because you did that almost all by yourself.
Yeah.
Every time I see it, I can't believe
Yeah.
that happened.
And if you look behind me, my paintings are so colorful.
That's right.
So
Even
I
though-
have just some
Right.
quick, this is
That's
it's
right.
Sunset.
This is Sunset. We're showing Sunset Mall with Isaiah's work. And
Yeah.
folks, I'm going to tell you a little thing because we're chit-chatting now, a couple minutes before 7. I went to Suriname with Rosa to do Carifesta. And we met a bunch of ragtag looking people on the street painting a mural. And we were there with a bunch of Cubans to paint. What year was that?
2012, Rosie.
2012.
2012.
That's when we met Isaiah. We didn't need, so we met him, we came back home to Miami, and then we met him in Miami as a student at UM. One of my interns introduced me to him. And we looked at each other and said, but I know you. And that was when we met you in Suriname, where you were actually doing the mural, while Rosa and I were also working, and Roy was working to get the paintings up. So folks, we've been doing this
No,
a
but
long
I think
time.
that was such a beautiful, you know, story, you know, the chances of just meeting you back,
Yeah.
you know, and we had such a good conversation in Suriname on the street, on the
Yeah.
pavement, you know, and I
Yeah.
met you and Rosa there, and to meet you in a museum, you know, all these years laterwards,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's what karma is about. And that's why when I said Miami is a complicated place, complication doesn't mean that it's troublesome. It's a complicated place because we are all connected to that global south, those archipelago of islands, all the way over to our Dutch friends in Suriname, and I won't leave them out, and our friends in Guadeloupe and Grenada and Barbados and St. Lucia, and I can go on and leave off some of the flags. It makes us Venezuela and Argentina and Ecuador and Nicaragua, Belize and Panama. It makes us who we are here. And as I travel around this country, Miami has a sizzle. We have this, it's like, you know, the things you light up at Christmas time, the sparkler. We had them in the Caribbean that would burn your fingers. That's Miami.
Starlight.
Starlight. We are special. We are starlights here in Miami. And I just want to thank History Miami for this opportunity. Last question. How does your work comment on current social and political issues? How
That's a
does
good
our
question,
work,
Rosa.
Rosa, it's
Good
your
question for Rosa.
Mural? No, we're talking about the mural?
We're talking about the mural. Somebody in this group here is trying to get us fired.
Oh, is this a question
We
about
are
the
not
mural?
trying to get fired.
Is
I
this-
think it's about your work.
It's
I
about
think it's
your
about
work.
your
How
work.
does your work comment on social or political issues? I'll go first. I'm a Caribbean woman, a Black woman living in Miami, and an immigrant, and one whose politics is woke. And this work in leading this team, we were very conscious of people's feelings. We were conscious of people's histories. We were conscious of people's traumas, that our bodies contain trauma. And we were also conscious of joy. We were trying to put some sexual thing in there, but it didn't quite work because, you know, sex is a part of our life, but and a part of our politics, right? A real part of our politics when you look at what's happening in Texas. So we also had to think about and talked about the role of the police. We talked about the role of the police. We talked about how it is that laws can assist us and make our lives better, and how it is sometimes these laws can cause us pain and suffering. So when you look at Rosa Naday Garmendia's work, an artist who documents this pain and suffering, we answered the void of it not being in the mural by the conversations. So we do work outside of this. This is just one aspect of our work. Asir talks about melanin and how it adds to your spice, how it makes you who you are. And Isaiah talks about symbols of the Caribbean. So for that question, we say, this mural is social, it is political, it is fun, and it is absolutely beautiful. It is my absolute joy to work with the three of you, and we tell the public we are available. Wall'N is available. You can get our references from the education department and the marketing department at HistoryMiami Museum. They will refer us with glowing terms so that we can come and make your place really beautiful. Thank you so much, so very much, Swamis. Thank you.
We absolutely will. And thank you. It's a wonderful work of art, to, beautiful thing to go to work and be greeted by that the moment you walk into the museum. So thank you. And I want to thank everybody that joined us tonight. I hope you enjoyed the program. And to learn more about HistoryMiami Museum, please visit our website, www.historymiami.org. You can also follow us on social media at HistoryMiami. And I want to tell everybody that joined us today that we will be hosting the Children's Trust Family Expo at the museum on September 18th. So please come and visit us. And thank you for joining us today. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.